Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your holiday special of the GSMC Soccer Podcast. I hope everyone out there is enjoying their Christmas week, spending time with family, and just enjoying the holidays. Enjoying the time with those loved ones, especially during a time like this when that can't happen all the time. So I know I'm certainly enjoying it. Christmas was awesome. Christmas Eve, all that food was great. I still got leftovers that's being eaten today. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about a lot of soccer today. We got obviously some transfer news coming up since that transfer window is just around the corner. We got some Premier League action going on. Last football matches of the year will be talked about in this episode. And then we also have some, continuing that top 10 series. Because I know I didn't have an episode this week, taking a little break, obviously, because of Christmas. Even podcasters have their breaks. So, let's just get right into what we're going to be talking about in today's show. With the first segment, we're just going to be talking about the Premier League, just recapping those matches that have happened since my last time on the show. And then we're going to be doing a little bit of a table breakdown, just, seeing where every team is as we end the year. Second part of the show, we're going to be talking about the other leagues pretty much the same way, just talking about all of the games that occurred before this, before the end of the year. And then we're going to be breaking down the table to see where each team is at, what surprises we've got going on, what disappointments so far in the early parts of the season, or I guess you could say the first half of the season now. Incredible how we're already halfway through the season. It's just incredible to even think. But then also third part of the show, we're going to be dedicating that to all the transfer news that we got going on. There are some deals that are pretty much already done. Some managers that have been sacked. We have a lot of news to talk about. That's going to be all discussed in that third part of the show. And in the last part, my favorite always, because I get to have a little fun with it, we're going to be talking about the top 10 current Croatia players right now. And of course, I'm continuing that with talking about each of the different countries. Croatia are the 11th best country in the world on FIFA World Rankings, so they're going to be the next country that we talk about. So let's just get started with the Premier League match recaps. And we had a lot of interesting draws going on since the last time we talked. I know I talked about the Man City defeating Newcastle. We had Aston Villa beating Crystal Palace. Even Man United and Leicester getting a 2-2 draw. That was a really fun matchup to watch. Arsenal defeating Chelsea 3-1. Like, where did that come from? I mean, the way Arsenal have been playing, it kind of falls in line with the way Chelsea have been playing as of late, but it's just, you always expect Arsenal to be that team that just falters, especially this year. The way they've been playing has just been atrocious. Everton getting a win against Sheffield United. Even though it is a 1-0 win, it's still 3 points. That makes it 4 wins in a row for them. And while teams around them in the top of the table are faltering right now, they just continue to get all 3 points, at least lately, and are just taking advantage of those teams struggling. But we look at some of the other games that we did not discuss. We got Leeds United defeating Burnley 1-0, and that makes it, Leeds United slowly but surely starting to get back up there. They got 3 wins in their last 4 games. Looking pretty good. You got West Ham drawing against Brighton 2-2. Not the kind of result West Ham are hoping for, especially over the last couple games. They've been struggling. 3 draws and a loss in their last 4 games. After being in the top 5, it's starting to catch up to them. They're not really playing at the consistent level that you need to be one of those European spots, and it's showing. And then we had 2 games of teams that are the top clubs in the Premier League. We had Liverpool taking on West Brom, and we had Tottenham going up against the Wolves. And you look at those matchups, you expect each of those teams to come away with 3 points. I mean, maybe not Tottenham with the way they're playing as of late, but still, you'd expect Jose Mourinho with Kane and Song, to figure out a way to defeat a Wolves team that has also been struggling as of late. But we had 2 very exciting draws in those games, and let's first start with the Liverpool versus West Brom match, and both these games actually were very, very similar in the way they were played. Liverpool got off to an extremely hot start. Sadio Mane scored in the 12th minute. Very nice goal from Liverpool overall, just a really nice team goal, and it kind of felt like that was just going to be the way this game was going. I mean, West Brom obviously one of the worst teams. They're 19th in the league right now, and you don't expect them to be able to, hold off Liverpool, especially when they get off to a hot start the way they did. However, that was one of just 2 shots on target Liverpool would have the entire game. Made 17 shots, only 2 of those on target. West Brom, who had 5 shots, had more with 3. It was just a very lackadaisical game from Liverpool offensively. And they had their star trio of Firmino, Salah, and Mane. They just could not connect successfully on any of their attempts. But they certainly had the possession. I mean, all of the first half, it was all Liverpool. They just couldn't connect on anything. They had nearly all the possession. I mean, overall in the game, they had 79% possession, 88% pass accuracy of 787 passes. When you look at West Brom, they only had a little over 200 passes completed, and 56% of them were completed. Well, I meant they had total of just over 200 passes. 56% of them were completed, so that's not a very good number there. But they were still able to hold on, play scrappy defense, even though they couldn't even get a shot all of that first half. Their first shot came in about 50 minutes into the game, and it was just a struggle for West Brom literally the entire game offensively. They could barely get a handle of the ball. However, in the second half, things certainly started to change for them. They got the ball a lot more. Were creating chances just a bit more. Obviously, they only had 5 shots that whole second half. But we're still getting a bit more daylight than they were in that first half. While Liverpool, were still getting their chances, but like I said, 2 shots on target of their 17 shots. They just were not connecting at all. We're not making John Stone, the goalkeeper for West Brom, really have to do any kind of work. There was one time when the ball kind of bounced in front of him weird. It kind of felt like it was going to go behind him and be one of those blunders that you're going to see on a YouTube channel or any kind of news outlet that was just going to make fun of him. But he was able to hold on to it and keep West Brom in the game. But you just have to be impressed with the way West Brom was able to hold on, continue to fight and make this a game. And they were rewarded with an Ajayi header in the 82nd minute. All Klopp could do all he could do was laugh, because it was just Liverpool just did not deserve to go home with 3 points. They were certainly getting more possession, and when we're obviously pretty much living in the West Brom half, but they weren't doing anything with it. They came up with a few more opportunities late in the game, and honestly, so did West Brom, but neither were able to get ahead and claim all 3 points. So it ends in a 1-1 draw. Poor performance from Liverpool, because you expect them, especially with this game being at home for them, you expect them to win this game, but they didn't do it. They were not able to win in Anfield. Terrible performance overall for them, and they get 1 point, but they still manage to stay on the top of the table. Obviously, we'll talk about that towards the end of this segment. And then we talk about Tottenham versus Wolves. And like I said, this game was very, very similar. Tottenham got a very early goal. Ndombele, who was an absolute monster in this game, in my opinion, was the man of the match for Tottenham. He was pretty much everywhere, harassing Wolves defenders, putting pressure on them and just having a ridiculous motor. He did score the opening goal in the first minute of this game, and you're expecting Tottenham to, they're finally starting to get their act together, obviously scoring an early goal here, but they only got 6 total shots in this game. 3 of those on target, while Wolves were certainly putting much more pressure. Early on in this game, even after that goal was made, Wolves were trying to answer back right away, trying to get, and they had opportunities. They just couldn't get past Lloris. There were some shots that were kind of, didn't have a lot of power on them, so they were pretty easy saves for Lloris. But still, Wolves were putting pressure on Tottenham. They even had more possession over the entire game. They had 55% possession, for the whole game. They had 11 shots, 6 of those on target. So they had as many shots on target as Tottenham had total shots. So, when you look at those stats, it kind of tells you the story of the game. It was certainly a great start for Tottenham, but it was not, just what you kind of would expect from them, which is, I guess, they get off to a hot start, so they're going to take that momentum and claim all 3 points. Did not do that. Same thing as Liverpool in their game. They struggled, even though Liverpool had much more possession and were controlling the game. On this side, Tottenham were not doing that. Wolves were controlling the game on their end, just couldn't get that open, that equalizer until late in the game when Romain Saiss scored a header, same as West Brom scoring their equalizer via header. So as you guys can see, this was in the 86th minute. Very, very similar game to that Liverpool match against West Brom, and it earned Wolves at least a point in this game, and Tottenham losing those 3 points. Both teams had opportunities late and just couldn't get ahead and claim those 3 points. So this was a very exciting game to watch because it was very back and forth. Neither team really had complete control of the game, and the Wolves got a dramatic header at the end of the game. So huge game for them to at least hold on to a point. I'm sure they feel like they probably could have had all 3 points, as they had a lot of opportunities late, especially their young striker Silva. He just I don't know. It just kind of doesn't feel like he's ready for that big stage yet. Now we're going to be talking about Leicester City versus Crystal Palace. We're now moving on to match day 16 games. This one was a yesterday, or I guess the 28th, Monday. And Crystal Palace and Leicester City had a 1-1 draw, another 1-1 draw. This one wasn't the same as those others. Neither team really got off to a hot start, went into halftime at 0-0. But there were certainly opportunities for Crystal Palace. I mean, even same thing for Leicester City. I mean, they had a penalty that was saved by, what's the goalkeeper's name? Guata? Honestly, sometimes I get mixed up with the names, but still, he was able to get a nice save against Iheanacho. They were, and this was a game where Leicester City were trying to, rest a lot of their star players. Guys like Jamie Vardy came off the bench, Yuri Tillemans as well, Wilfred Ndidi, Christian Fuchs, Mark Albrighton. A lot of them were on the bench. Gray as well. Usually guys that you see in that starting lineup, and Harvey Barnes, who has been absolutely killing it as of late, was in that starting lineup. He did score the equalizer late in this game after a ridiculous goal from Wilfried Zaha. I mean, when I first saw this goal, it was on it was like a YouTube channel where I was just like watching, some of the better goals from I guess yesterday, and I didn't see the run up play, that the run that led to this goal that Zaha created for Townsend. And when you see Wilfried Zaha, running up, avoiding a couple guys and then finding, having the vision to be able to find Townsend on that right side, he fell And it's very natural for a guy to like just, okay, I did what I had to do, let me just, walk back, just walk forward and not put as much effort. But he still hustled, got to where he needed to be, and scored just an absolutely ridiculous goal from a beautiful cross from Townsend. I mean, some could say that was maybe a little too far, but it was just enough for Zaha to score a ridiculous volley that just gave Kasper Schmeichel no chance at saving it. I mean, and I'm talking no chance. It was a bullet. And so that certainly has goal of the week all over it. And that gave Crystal Palace that lead in the 58th minute. But Harvey Barnes came right back with a goal of his own that is honestly, in its own right, just as beautiful, because, I mean, he certainly has got the confidence with the way he's been playing as of late, but to take on about 3 defenders and score in between them, it's just, he didn't have like a lot of pressure on him when he was dribbling, but when he shot the ball, he literally had 3 Crystal Palace defenders in front of him. He was able to get it in between 2 of them and score on Guiata. It was just a really, really nice goal, and one of those that you don't really expect to really just come out of nowhere. It really did just come out of nowhere. That's the way that goal went. And this game ended up in a 1-1 draw. Another 1-1 draw. It's going to be a lot of this, guys, in this show, because it was just a lot of draws going on pretty much for the past week. And Leicester were not able to, get that last goal. Neither was Crystal Palace. Neither were able to claim those points, although they certainly had opportunities. You look at the stats overall, Leicester City just weren't. It's kind of the same thing as Liverpool. They had 17 shots, only 3 on target. I mean, that happens when, you go with some of these other players that don't have a lot of, playing time under their belt. While Crystal Palace, they only had 1 shot on target the entire game. They made it count, and it was a beautiful one at that. So, big game here, and big 1 point for Crystal Palace, who are now at least making a little bit of distance between themselves and that relegation zone. They do have 2 losses before this draw, and haven't had a win in their last 5 games, but still, a draw's a draw. They're going to take it and, just move on. Next, we have the game between Chelsea and Aston Villa. Pretty interesting lineup here, as Timo Werner was benched, as he has not been in good form as of late. Same thing with Kai Havertz. Those 2 signings have not panned out as people were expecting them to. I mean, with Kai Havertz, I'm not really that worried because, he's very young. This is his first time playing in, a big league like the Premier League. But for Timo Werner, I mean, he's been playing in the Bundesliga for a long time now. Had a ridiculous season last year. Comes in on a pretty solid deal of it was 56 million euros, I believe, and has just not been that clinical finisher that people were expecting him to be. He's honestly not even helping out in terms of linking up play. It's just has not gone well, and you got Olivier Giroud, who has just been killing it. Is probably the top. Maybe not the top striker, but he's certainly in that top 3 conversation in strikers in the English league. Maybe around with Kane, and I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, I honestly think he's even better than Firmino right now. It's tough. Aubameyang's not there. He's obviously having a tough season. But, just overall, I mean, Giroud has been that good. Maybe he's even top 2, because I can't think of anyone else that... Maybe I'm forgetting someone, but maybe you guys want to remind me in the comments about who I'm forgetting in the Premier League. But it's just... He's been that good, and he scored a goal in this game as well, and it was an equalizer. No, it was actually the opening goal in this game, and it was created pretty well, but it was a pretty good team goal. Perezich, who always seems to be so flashy with his play, was able to create some space for Ben Chilwell on the left-hand side, and he found Olivier Giroud not wide open, but pretty open inside the box as he headed it home. It was a diving header, one of those classic Giroud goals, and yeah, man, that was the opening goal. But then they were not able to hold on as El Ghazi was able to find his way into the open on the back post and scored between the legs of Eduard Mendy to score that equalizer in the 50th minute. And unfortunately, Chelsea were not able to find that go-ahead goal. They had opportunities, certainly got shots on target, while Aston Villa weren't as creative and as flashy as you kind of seen them all this season. They only had 10 shots, 2 on target. So the defense of Chelsea has continued to play well, even though in that one instance they certainly didn't, cover El Ghazi well at all. And it opened it up and completely for him. He was wide open in that back post, just wide open. You can't really fault Mendy in not stopping that because he got a touch on it, just went right between his legs. And this is a disappointing result for Chelsea, who are trying to, go up on the top of the board. Like they've got 3 losses in their last 5 games, and obviously this draw was not what they were looking for. When teams above them, got you look at Aston Villa, 3 wins in the last 5. Man United, 3 wins in the last 5. Everton, 4 wins in a row. Even Leicester, 2 wins in their last 5, and then obviously Liverpool, 3 wins in the last 5. It's just each of them are getting points. They're getting up, wins when they need to. While Chelsea, 3 losses in their last 5 games, just the same as Tottenham, have not been able to play well at all. As these other teams are starting to hit a good stretch, and it's crazy how the tables can really switch like that. You see Chelsea, Tottenham, near the top of the board, and especially Tottenham, who were one of the leaders for a long time, but then both hit a very, tough, rough patch and have not been able to, really put anything together since then. And then I do quickly want to talk about Arsenal versus Brighton. And Arsenal, I got to give it to them. They get a very good win against Brighton. I mean, even though it's Brighton. I mean, I was expecting them to be one of the surprises of the season. I say it all the time, and I won't let myself, get away with that. Like, it was a bad call, but still, Arsenal get that 1-0 win against Brighton, and are hopefully it's 2 wins in a row. I mean, when's the last time Arsenal could say they won 2 games in a row this season? They gotta enjoy it when they can, man, and getting those 3 points, it's starting to get them away from that relegation zone. They got there at 20 points. They're only 6 points away from a 5th place. Even though now that I'm looking at it, Aston Villa has 2 games in hand on them, so maybe they'll be a little bit more than just 6 points. But regardless, it's good for Arsenal to at least get this result. At the moment of me talking right now, I got Man United and Wolves at halftime. 0-0. You got Southampton dropping points against West Ham, and both these teams are pretty much in the same spot right now. It's actually funny. Their last 5 games have been exactly the same. They got 3 draws and 1 loss in their last 4 games. That 5th game was a win. So each of them are pretty much in that same exact form right now. So it makes sense that they're 9 and 10 respectfully behind a slew of top clubs. You got Man City starting to win a bit, 2 wins in the last, 2 wins in a row, 3 in their last 5, in 8th place. I mean, I still don't feel like they, have a chance to win, to win the title. Maybe if Liverpool, lose a bit here or draw, they just need to win. That's just straight up what Man City needs to do. And 8th place right now, they do have a few games in hand on, teams like Leicester City, who have 16 games. With Man City being at 14. So it'll be interesting how this table, mixes up, because we know there's going to be a lot of changes going on. I mean, from 9th place to 2nd, you got only 3-point difference. Only 3 points. This is very, very tight at the top. I mean, obviously Liverpool are at 32. They're 3 ahead of, 2nd place Leicester City and Everton. But, I mean, you look at the way Everton have been playing, and it kind of makes me feel the way I was feeling in the beginning of the season for them. That, they're a team that's hungry and ready to, kind of change their history. Because literally, like I've said plenty of times before, since I became a fan, Everton were a mess. Have been a mid-table team. I know, obviously, their history, they're a top club. But for a long time, they've been one of those mid-table teams. They are now proving everyone wrong, being one of those top teams. They made big moves in the summer. and I'm excited to see what they do for the rest of the season. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues, see what's going on as we head to this new year right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, everyone, to your Christmas special of the GSMC Soccer Podcast. In the last segment, we talked about the Premier League matches that happened this past week, and of course, did a little table breakdown as we head to the end of the year. We're almost in 2021, guys. This 2020 year is about to end, thank goodness. But now, we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues, and I'm not going to be going over the matches that have occurred or that are going to be happening right before the end of this year. I'm instead just going to do a bit of a table breakdown for each league, starting with the Bundesliga and then working my way to Serie A, La Liga, and then, of course, Ligue 1. And we have a lot to talk about, guys, because there are some tight races at the top of each of these leagues, and I just can't wait to get into each and every one of them, starting with the Bundesliga. And before I officially start talking about them, I just want to make sure you guys know I'm going to be talking about, of course, the title races, some of the disappointments that we've had so far this season with some of the top clubs that I expected to be near the top of the tables. And then, of course, I'll give a little bit of a small portion of my talk to, what's going on in the relegation battle. So, let's start off with Bundesliga. We have a very, very exciting race so far at the top of the table with Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, and RB Leipzig all at the top. You have Bayern, of course, at number 1 with 30 points. But then you got Leverkusen and RB Leipzig right behind them with 28 points. They did not finish the year on a high note, which is pretty much what makes the difference here at the top of the table. Leverkusen lost their last game of the year. RB Leipzig drew their last game of the year, while Bayern came away with a win. That win was against, let me see, my apologies. It was against Bayer Leverkusen. So yes, that game did end up deciding which team was going to get the top of the table by the end of 2020. RB Leipzig, on the other hand, they got a draw against who? Against Köln. Not a good way to end the year. They did end up winning their DFB Pokal second round game against Augsburg on the 22nd, just before the new year. I do like that Bundesliga gives these teams a bit of a week break heading into the new year, unlike the Premier League that just stacks these games on these players. But yes, so the Bundesliga does have that 3-team race. I don't expect it to stay that way. Honestly, I expect Bayern to just kind of run away with it by the time we reach 20-something games. I expect Bayern to have a sizable lead there. Not to say anything wrong with Bayer Leverkusen or to spite Bayer Leverkusen or RB Leipzig. I just don't expect those teams who rely on a lot of young talent to really be able to keep up with Bayern Munich's just incredible play and just the amount of quality that they have on their team. Yes, I mean, it's always possible that you can get one of them. If I have to pick one of them, I have to go with Bayer Leverkusen. I feel like they have a few more players, that have kind of been there, like Patrick Schick. Leon Bailey has been there for a while. Moussa Diaby is one of those guys that, is kind of relied on a bit much. Obviously, you got the Bender brothers, Jonathan Tah, Charles Aranguiz, even Karem Demirbe. You got a few guys on that, that team that, have some veteran experience that can certainly help this team in the long run. While with RB Leipzig, I feel like they as well, they do have those veteran leaders as well. Obviously, Sabitzer, Poulsen, Emil Forsberg. I just feel like they rely on a bit more youth than Bayer Leverkusen, and like Dayot Upamecano, Chloe Wirtz, Tyler Adams, Danny Olmo, Christopher Nkunku. I feel like they rely on a bit too much youth to really be able to battle with Bayern Munich for the long haul. Not to say that it's impossible. I mean, these teams are all worthy of being near in this top three and can certainly make a run for the title. Just in my personal opinion, I feel like Bayern Munich are going to eventually run away with it. After that, you have a few big clubs at the that are left in the top five. You have Wolfsburg that have been very consistent this season. Have only lost one game all year. However, they do have 6 draws, which is near the top of in this league. They obviously got some top players like Maximilian Arnold, Maximilian Philippe, João Victor, John Brooks, Weghorst, one of the better strikers in the league, Josep Bricalo, someone that we're going to be talking about very soon in this show. Kevin Mbabu. They got a lot of good talent on their team, and certainly deserves to be near the top of this league. They've gotten some very good results. Have defeated Stuttgart. What is it? Who else have they've taken on? They beat Hoffenheim. They had a draw against Mönchengladbach. A draw against Leverkusen. Let's see. I mean, they did lose 2-1 to Bayern. That's not a bad result there. But really, they've taken advantage of the teams that they needed to. And now in the next 3 games to start the new year, they have a very challenging schedule ahead. They got to take on Borussia Dortmund, then Union Berlin, and then RB Leipzig. Those 3 games, back to back to back, all against teams that are right around them in the table, and it'll certainly be a big time, test for them to see if they really belong in this top 5. And then, of course, Borussia Dortmund, who are easily the biggest disappointment so far in this early season. Have 3 losses in their last 5 games to end 2020. 5 losses in all, and that's honestly, that's bottom of the table. That's the most losses of anyone in the top 10 in the Bundesliga. So they certainly have not played to the expectations that they had early on in this season, and that's why they're in 5th. But it's just incredible to see that they played so bad, but they're still just in 5th place. I honestly don't think they have a chance at the title anymore, as they're now 8 points behind Bayern Munich, and I see no way, no how that Borussia Dortmund can make up 8 points this late into the season, even though, we're not even halfway. We're talking about Bayern Munich here, and it's just, there's just not possible. For a Champions League spot, absolutely. They're going to be eyeing probably one of that 4th spot with Wolfsburg, and maybe even the 3rd spot if Leverkusen or RB Leipzig take a little bit of a fall. But still, it's going to be a tough road back for Dortmund. Same thing for Borussia Mönchengladbach, who the same thing, have been absolutely underwhelming so far this season. That attack that we saw absolutely light up in the Champions League and help them make it to the knockout rounds has not been present in the Bundesliga, and that is why they're in 8th place right now. They've got 24 goals scored, 22 allowed, and have just not been able to get the results that they were hoping for early on in this season, and are behind Stuttgart, Union Berlin, 2 teams that, are clearly playing better than them, at least more consistent on both ends, and it's going to be a tough road back for them to get a European spot after being in the knockout rounds this season. And then you look down at the relegation battle. My bad, guys. I got my words weren't coming to me yet. But we got Schalke in last place, as I was expecting, with only 4 points in their first 13 games. They've pretty much gone into a full rebuild, and I feel like it's absolutely certain that they're going to be relegated this season. You got Mainz, who was another team that I was not expecting to be anywhere near mid-table. I was expecting them to be in a relegation battle, and that's exactly where they are with just 6 points in 13 games. Those two are going to be battling it out for which one's going to be worst in the league. I mean, they have a slight chance, but Arminia, who are in 16th place, have 2 wins in their last 4 games, have certainly made a little bit of a distance between that, them and Mainz and Schalke, but they are right now in the relegation playoff spot. But yeah, it's probably going to stick this way. I mean, you might have some swapping in that 16th spot, but I feel like Mainz and Schalke are going to just be there in that 17th and 18th spot and get relegated. So now let's move on to Serie A, which has been purely dominated by the Milan squads. AC Milan have, pretty much went out on a huge start to the season and have been leading pretty much the onset, and have yet to lose a game all season. They're the only team to have 0 losses in that column, and you look right behind them. I mean, they have 34 points. They've been extremely impressive, but right behind them, they got Inter Milan, who have been on an absolute tear as of late. They've won 6, 7 straight Serie A matches. They have won 7 in a row, are on an absolute tear to end the year. Easily the hottest team domestically to end 2020. And it's got them within a point of AC Milan, because they certainly have dropped a few points. Not that they've lost, but they do have 2 draws in their last 5 games. And that's what's made it a little bit closer in that Serie A table. There are rumors, which I'm going to be talking about in the next transfer, that AC Milan are trying to, strengthen their squad for this run, because they certainly have a race here on their hands. But the thing is, after that, it drops a bit. You got Inter Milan at 33 points, Roma in 3rd place at 27. So there's a bit of a gap there. And then you got Napoli, Juventus, and Atalanta, who have a game in hand on the teams above them in Sassuolo, Roma, Inter Milan, and AC Milan, but they're still behind them. Even if Juventus or Napoli were able to get a win, they would have 28 and 27 points respectively, which would still be well behind the 2 Milan squads in 1 and 2. So at the moment, this looks to be like a 2-team race. Surprisingly, Juventus have been very inconsistent this season. I mean, maybe not so surprisingly, because their squad looks so much less consistent than they have in recent years, and don't have the same kind of quality that I usually expect. I mean, and it's no fault. I mean, obviously they got Ronaldo, Dybala's still there, although he hasn't been that consistent this season, or at least not consistent playing time. I like Morata in that striker spot. Dejan Kulusevski hasn't really had the same kind of impact that I was expecting. Federico Chiesa has shown flashes, but no consistency there. De Ligt is still trying to get his legs under him. Arthur Melo, same thing. It's just a lot of inconsistencies with this squad. I do love their midfield. Aaron Ramsey, Weston McKennie, Adrian Rabiot. It's like, man, you wonder which one is going to show up that day, but which Rabiot. But still, very strong midfield, but just have not been consistent whatsoever. And the same can obviously be said for Atalanta, who are in 7th place and have just been very, very poor defensively, and have not been that same, incredibly explosive attacking team that we saw last season. It has just not been there, because obviously Josip Ilicic is not the same player he was last year. They still got Papu Gomez, who is their star. Ilicic is, maybe getting a little bit of work on him, but they do have Miranchuk. I believe they just recently got him, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong about that? Maybe I'm mistaking him with somebody different, but still, it's just been a very inconsistent year for them. Duvan Zapata has been solid, but a lot of those guys that were all making a fluid offense altogether, because yes, obviously it all started with Papu Gomez, Josip Ilicic, Duvan Zapata added in, Luis Muriel as well, but it wasn't a complete team effort that would really make this attack flow. Gosens, Martin Derun, Hans Hattebor, Mario Pasalic, all of them really came in and contributed to this team's success, and that just has not been really showing up this year. And that is exactly why they're in 7th place right now. And same thing could be said about Lazio. That offense has been even worse this season, and the defense is exactly like we expected them to be, and that's why they're in 8th place right now. They have the worst goal differential of anyone in the top 9, and it's just not looked good for them domestically this season so far. And then you got to look at some of the other teams that are above. I mean, you got to be very impressed with what Roma have been able to do. After losing, who was it? Their start, Nicolo Zaniolo. You thought they were going to be, very uninspiring on the attack end, but they have not. They've actually been very, very strong, and I've been very impressed with what I've seen from them. Obviously you got Dzeko, you got the brand new signing of Pedro has certainly been huge for them as well. And you look at some of their stats, and obviously you also got to talk about Mkhitaryan. I mean, he's been stepping it up in a big way. He's got 7 goals and 6 assists already this season. Veretout has been huge, 7 goals for him. And like I said, for Dzeko, 6 goals for him. Pellegrini has been big. I mean, so they've gotten a lot of good performances from a lot of their players. And then, of course, they have that back line, which is now, I mean, you were hoping you get Chris Smalling back, which they did, but he hasn't been that same consistent guy that that they were hoping for. Gianluca Mancini has been there, Roger Ibanez, but really it hasn't been the same defense that we saw last season. But still, overall, very solid year so far for Roma, and same thing could be said for Sassuolo. But I've been talking a lot about Serie A. Let's move on. We're just going to be talking now about La Liga, which at the top of the table, in my opinion, it's been Atletico Madrid, and only Atletico Madrid. I mean, with only 13 matches played, they got 32 points, only 1 loss and 2 draws as they end 2020 on such a high note. Same thing could be said about Real Madrid. I mean, even though they have 15 games played, they do have 32 points. They have finished their 2020 campaign so far with 5 straight wins. And that was followed by a loss to Alaves and a draw to Villarreal and a loss to Valencia. So obviously things were not looking good in November, but they ended it on such a high note. Things are certainly looking to be turned around for Real Madrid. Their defense is starting to play on that level that I was expecting coming into the season. They've allowed just, 2 goals in their last 5 La Liga games. Have certainly been, focused more on that end. And their offense is obviously starting to, pick it up as well. I mean, they're second in the league in goals scored. Obviously just 1 goal more than Atletico Madrid with 2 games more than them. But still, they've been looking very good and certainly deserve to be in second place. Real Sociedad, on the other hand, a team that, has just squandered their amazing early start. There you go, Steve. And have just faltered. 3 straight losses to end the year, 2 draws before that. It's just too many points dropped, and they're now 6 points behind both Atletico and Real Madrid, with games in hand, with those 2 teams having games in hand on them. So it's not looking good, and they can easily drop to 4th or 5th with Sevilla having 2 games in hand on them, and they're tied in points, and they ended their 2020 on a good note. 3 wins in their last 4 for Sevilla, starting to get it together. But yeah, things are not looking good for Real Sociedad, a team that I, was very, very surprised with. And obviously now they're showing their true colors. It's just not working very well for them. Obviously, David Silva has been a great player, but losses to Atletico Madrid, that was their last game. Levante, that was a terrible result for them. Obviously, they lose to Barcelona, but you're starting to see they're getting that competition. They're taking on those stronger teams, and they're not able to produce as much as they were early on in the season when they were taking on teams like, who were they taking on? Like Osasuna. Who else were they taking on? Let me look at some of the other teams that they beat. What is it? Oh my God, where are these? Elche, Getafe, Real Betis. Huesca. They were taking on all these, worst teams, Celta Vigo, and were dominating them. But now they're taking on the real competition and losing to Barcelona. And obviously, that hurts their momentum. So they lose to Levante, and then now, of course, Atletico Madrid. Not a good way to end the year. They do have one last game against Athletic Club on December 31st. Hopefully they can turn things around for them as they go into 2021 and win that game. They do have a semifinal game in the Supercopa de España against Barcelona. That will be even bigger for them because obviously the La Liga title is slipping for them. If they can make it to the Supercopa de España final by defeating Barcelona, that would be absolutely huge for them and would certainly turn things around for that club, which is obviously on a downspin. Barcelona, they're starting to win games, get consistent, get consistent results for them. But their last game, they got a draw against Eibar. So whenever it kind of feels like they take a step forward, they take two steps back, and that has just been a consistent story for Barcelona. Beat teams like Real Sociedad, they beat Valladolid 3-0, kind of taking care of business there. But then they get a 2-2 draw against Valencia and a 1-1 draw against Eibar, pretty much mixed in there. And that's just not what you need. They have some favorable matchups coming up. They got a game against Huesca, Athletic Club, Granada. I mean, even though Granada can certainly put up a fight, they need to take care of business in those games. Those are 3 games in a 6-game span, in 6-day span. They need to win each and every one of those if they want to start putting some pressure on the top of the table, which I don't think they really can up until this point. And then lastly, let's talk about Ligue 1 real quick. For the first time in like I can even remember, PSG are not at the top of the table as we head into the new year. You got Lyon and Lille tied at 36 at the top of the table, and then you have PSG at 35. It's just kind of mind-boggling because, they've lost 4 points. They've lost 4 games, and that's going to drop you. That really will. And I still expect PSG to win this league. Obviously they're going to. They got the new. I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. But they do have a new manager now in Pochettino, who, can hopefully ignite a spark for PSG to move on for the rest of the season and play at the top of their game. But even in their last 5 games, they got a loss and a draw, so they've certainly dropped points there as well. And they'll just need to keep playing at the top of the game because Lyon and Lille see a title in their grasp, and they're certainly not going to be letting up, especially with, Lyon doesn't have any, European soccer to worry about. Lille do have some European soccer. They obviously have the Europa League to worry about, so, but they're going to be taking on Ajax. That's going to be a very tough round for them. So if they, and that's not until February. So obviously there's going to be a lot of Ligue 1 games in between then and now. But we'll just have to see how it all pans out. But at the moment, it's very, very tight at the top of that Ligue 1 race. So a lot of exciting stuff going on in those tables. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, we're going to be talking about all that transfer news going on as we head into that January transfer window.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about all the other top 5 leagues in the world. Just went over the tables as we head into 2021. And now we're going to be talking about some of the transfer news going on in the world today. We got that January transfer window right around the corner. So, we got a lot of rumors just heating up. And I'm just so excited to get into all of that with you guys right now. So let's just get started talking about, of course, Messi. If there's any Messi news, that always is at the top of the list. And he's recently come out and said that he wants to play in the MLS in the future and that it's always been his dream to play in the US. And now there are other rumors that I've seen that says that Messi and his friend Luis Suarez have a plan to play together at Inter Miami in 2022. And if you guys know me, I am just rubbing my hands. I'm literally doing it right now, just rubbing my hands together, just so excited to see those two. If those two guys come here, because even though I still want to see Higuain, see what he can do with our club and see if he can, play at a top level, which obviously this first season, he didn't get a full season. So it's not fair to him to just write him off and say he's, washed or anything. But come on, this is Messi and Luis Suarez. We saw what they can do at Barcelona. So just imagine what they can do in the MLS. And the fact that there's rumors that they want to come to Inter Miami. I remember when they were first talking about Messi to Man City and that he'd signed some contract for him to then go to New York City FC. I was so disappointed because, the talks were very strong. And there were obviously a lot of talk before Inter Miami was even a thing that Beckham was going to try to bring in the top of the top players, and that includes Messi. So I was a little disappointed, but now I'm excited. I want to see Messi come and play here. That would be huge. And, of course, they're saying it's not until 2022, so I still got to wait an extra year. But still, the fact that it's even in the air makes me feel good. I cannot wait. Next, let's talk about there's Sergio Ramos talks, because I remember Real Madrid and Sergio Ramos were in some contract talks, and you kind of expect, the man has been there for pretty much I can't remember if he's been with anybody else. That's literally the only team I can ever think Sergio Ramos has been with, and the contract talks have actually stalled with Real Madrid. And of course, with a legendary defender like Sergio Ramos, with his contract ending at the end of this season, you're obviously going to have some big-time clubs looming to snatch this guy. Because he will change your back line. I don't care if he's 34 years old. Obviously he's getting up there in age, and when you need someone that... But that's the thing. In my opinion, it does not matter. If you have a chance to get a guy like Sergio Ramos, you do it. I don't even care who you have in your back line. It's like that. This is the kind of guy you go and get because he is a game changer. And a team that is actually looming to try to get him is Jose Mourinho and Tottenham. And I think that would be a huge get for them. They love playing those three center back formations. He would be perfect between whoever the heck you want to put there. Sometimes they put Ben Davies there. They have Davinson Sanchez. You put Sergio Ramos in between that, three center back lineup, and that changes your team. That changes your team with Harry Kane up top. Oh my God! But yeah, now we're going to talk about Diego Costa. Reached an agreement with Atletico Madrid to terminate his contract. That's big time. And honestly, I can't even say I'm surprised, because after Luis Suarez made his move there to Atletico, I knew Diego Costa's days were numbered, because he's still good enough. He's 32, I believe, still good enough to to get some starting minutes or some a regular starting time with a big time club, even if it's maybe not big, because there are reports that Arsenal do want to sign him. For the life of me, I do not know why. Maybe his mentality with how serious and how rough he is, it can kind of ignite something for Arsenal, who have not scored consistently at all this season. And of course, Aubameyang likes to play on the left, so maybe they're thinking Diego Costa in the middle, kind of like their Olivier Giroud. Maybe that's the way they're thinking about it. That's really all I can think of to make it make sense. But still, Diego Costa on his way out of Atletico Madrid, if he hasn't already been out, and there are a lot of teams that are eyeing him. I mean, obviously you got Arsenal in the forefront, and they're apparently the front runners, but then you also got teams like Real Madrid, Sevilla, Barcelona, all said to be interested. And I can see that. I mean, with Real Madrid, I mean, he'd obviously be kind of like a backup to Karim Benzema. He would go in whenever Karim Benzema needs a rest. For Barcelona, I think that would be an excellent fit for them. He kind of fits that mold of a Luis Suarez, not as fluid, but certainly that rough, tough-minded, and with a high work rate striker to really score goals. They're currently going with Braithwaite, who I think is still a very solid player, and he's playing really, really good right now. But they need someone that kind of garners that attention, and Diego Costa is exactly that. And of course, getting him from a rival doesn't hurt. Next, we got the Philadelphia Union selling USA defender Mark Mckenzie to Belgian side Genk. Not sure how you say it, but still, that's a solid club for Mark Mckenzie to end up. Obviously, I'm thinking of it as a USMNT fan. Mark Mckenzie is one of those defender prospects that I have a lot of hope for, that I think can certainly become a regular for the United States national team. And making a move to Europe was essential for that. That was his next step. He was Rookie of the Year in the MLS. Came back, had a really good second year for Philadelphia Union. Helped them get to a first seed. Obviously, the MLS Cup playoffs did not end the way that they hoped. But still, he was a big time part of their success. And now he moves to the European stage, which is always the next step for any young talent. And Genk is a very good team. At least for where they play, for their the Belgian league. They're regularly getting time in the Europa League. They were there this season. Obviously, they're not anymore because they kind of fell off. But still, the fact that he's going to possibly get regular European matches and experience is going to be great for his development. And I just cannot wait to see the kind of player he turns into. And sticking with the MLS, this is kind of small, but I'm an Inter Miami fan, so I always got to say it. Brek Shea signs his new deal with Inter Miami. And, I mean, depending on where you're looking at it from, this is small, but, I mean, this could be really big as well. Brek Shea played a huge part to Inter Miami's success last year. I mean, obviously they didn't have a lot of success, but where they did have success was when Brek Shea was involved. I mean, he can do it on the defensive end. He's a very solid goal scorer. He's a veteran that has been there and done that in the MLS, so he certainly can help anybody that, any new players that aren't used to the league when they come in. He can certainly help them there. And I just think overall this is a great signing. I always loved the way that they play whenever Brek Shea was on the floor or on the court or whatever. Yeah, on the field. Jeez. And he's just a very solid player to have. So I'm very excited to have him. Next, we have Arsenal is interested in a loan move for Isco. However, it is said that the 28-year-old is eager to join Sevilla, and really not surprised. I mean, I remember seeing an Arsenal fan on AFTV saying, why would anybody want to come to Arsenal when they're playing as bad as they are? And this is one of the results. I remember I talked about Dominic Szoboszlai the last episode, or the episode before that, where he decided to go to RB Leipzig instead of Arsenal, and it's just starting to all pile up. I mean, now Isco, even though Arsenal are interested, he's kind of not. He doesn't want to go. He'd rather go to Sevilla, and not that Sevilla is a bad club. I mean, they just won the Europa Leagues. I mean, so they're really, and they're in the knockout rounds now. So obviously they're a big time club, but. And maybe he just likes staying in La Liga, but still, it just kind of goes to show where Arsenal now is as a club. I mean, for sure, to make a loan move for Isco would be huge for them. It would add a lot of flair and creativity to their midfield, which they certainly need. I mean, they need a lot of things, but that's one of them. And it would be a very huge move for Arsenal. But right, it kind of feels like he might stay in La Liga, and that would be a very good move for Isco as well. Now we're going to move on to PSG, which I kind of talked about in the last segment, but they sacked Thomas Tuchel and replaced him with the former Tottenham boss, Mauricio Pochettino, and I like this move. I've always, not that I didn't like Tuchel, I thought he was a very solid manager. You know, some of his, not formations, but some of his decision makings and substitutions kind of had left me with my head scratched, scratching my head and stuff, and I just wasn't really sure what his plan was for some of these players, and just kind of the way he handled things. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I kind of was, not that I wanted him out, but it was just I wasn't really sure where I stood with Thomas Tuchel. I wasn't like, oh yeah, he's our boss of the future. That this is it. It was nothing like that. And I know it's hard to feel that way for anyone at PSG unless they win us the Champions League. But I feel like Pochettino is the kind of guy with experience and having managed big time players like Harry Kane, obviously Song, Dele Alli. And the fact that he used to play for PSG, he's got nearly 100 appearances for PSG between 2001 and 2003. So he's got history with the club as well. It just feels like an all-around great signing. Of course, any kind of signing in the middle of the year is left with some skepticism. But in the end, I think it's going to work out for PSG. And his experience is just going to work wonders for them as they move on into the knockout rounds, and of course trying to win this Liga season. Next, we got Inter Milan sees Liverpool striker Divock Origi as a transfer target. Origi has been in the transfer rumors for a while now. There was rumors that he would be moving on to a Premier League side, one of those lower sides like Leeds United, maybe even one in the Championship. I doubt he'd want to move there, especially being in Liverpool all this time and having experienced all that success. But a move to Inter Milan would be a very good move for Origi. Not that he would get regular time. Obviously, they got Romelu Lukaku, but Inter Milan feel like the 25-year-old would be perfect competition for their star striker. They are obviously Lukaku and Origi are teammates already in the international level for Belgium. So they're, the transition would be very smooth, and he's used to being behind Lukaku, and you could do a lot worse than Origi as your backup striker. However, like I said, there are some of those lower other Premier League sides like Leeds United that have also been linked to him as well. So I'm honestly leaning more towards him getting that move to another Premier League side and getting regular time with them over him moving to Serie A. Now we got AC Milan. I was actually very excited when I saw this news that AC Milan have been linked to Crystal Palace star Wilfried Zaha. This is going to certainly, remember what I said about AC Milan looking to strengthen their lineup as they during this transfer window to help them get that Serie A title. This is that help. Obviously, Zlatan Ibrahimovic has been huge for AC Milan. Wilfried Zaha plays that same position. He likes to play up top. He's the number 9. But with the injuries that Zlatan hits consistently, they need that help. They need that insurance so that if he goes down again, especially if, God forbid, I'm knocking on wood, he gets injured again and he can't play for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even a month, they'd have a guy like Zaha that can easily take his place and play. And obviously it would be a whole different style of play. The pace that Zaha brings, but they'd still be just as clinical of a finisher. Maybe not as clinical as Zlatan. To be honest, obviously Zlatan, in my opinion, top 10 striker of all time. But still, Zaha would be huge for AC Milan, and really it's just no surprise that he is even in these rumors, as he's been rumored to be out of Palace for over a year now. But yes, I think this would be a huge move for AC Milan. Next, we have English midfielder Declan Rice and his future being up in the air, as there are some big clubs that are rumored to be interested in his services. Some clubs like Man United and Chelsea obviously would love to have a athletic, and very strong defensive midfielder like Declan Rice in their team. And club legend Mark Noble hopes that it won't happen, that he remains in West Ham. But of course, he does admit that you never know what can happen when big clubs are interested in, these young talents. They're obviously, Declan Rice is still very young and can have a lot more left in the tank for West Ham United. It just depends on what he wants, what move he thinks is best for him. And in my opinion, I think staying an extra year in West Ham United won't hurt. Obviously, do some more development, get regular playing time, because he's obviously one of their best players and is a huge part of their success. Making a move to one of those big time clubs and getting, maybe not getting consistent minutes right off the bat, maybe not be the best move for him and his development. So certainly staying at West Ham will not hurt, at least for another year. And then maybe test the waters next January transfer window. Next, we got, Wolves' pursuit of Real Madrid flop Luka Jovic looks to be coming to an end, as a lot of those fringe players for Real Madrid look to be staying at Madrid until at least until the summer. Not really sure why. Like same thing with Isco. Like, it's possible that he doesn't even leave Real Madrid, especially in this January transfer window. Most likely they'll leave in the summer when their contracts expire. But Real Madrid do seem to be a little more what's the word I'm trying? Not reliant. What's the other word I'm thinking of? They have a little more leeway? Whatever. Either way, they seem more willing. There you go, Steve. More willing to sell some of their players. Like, they let go of, Bale. Obviously, that was a big-time move. And Luka Jovic hasn't really done much since his move there. And hasn't done pretty much anything since his big move there from Frankfurt. So, obviously Wolves needing that striker presence with, oh my God, why am I mixing up these names? Wolves. Let's get the Wolves on here, because I am obviously messing things up here with their star striker, Raul Jimenez, obviously being out for a long time at the moment. They're going with Fabio Silva at the moment, but like I said earlier in this show, he doesn't really seem ready to just make that move as the starting number 9. They need a presence like a Luka Jovic that has, already shown his ability to be able to lead a club in that, obviously with Frankfurt, not with Real Madrid, to be able to make that big time move. And, obviously Wolves aren't a big club like Real Madrid where he'll, not live up to the hype. Next, we got Hossam Aouar. Rumors just continue to escalate as Arsenal have been interested since last summer for the 22-year-old. It did appear that the midfielder dropped a hint about his future, and it has Arsenal fans convinced that he'll be making a move to the Emirates. Not really sure if this is actually going to happen. I mean, Lyon had a huge chance to let him go during the summer window, and it kind of felt like they weren't really a part of the title race, but now they are right there in the race, and there would be literally no reason for them to let him go. None whatsoever. And if they did, I'd be extremely surprised, because, I mean, the fact that they're literally leading the table at the moment, and he's a huge part of what they do. I mean, he's obviously one of their best players, and letting him go during the transfer window when he's, when they're doing so well would not be, the best decision. I just don't expect it to happen. And of course, there's another snub for Arsenal that just continues to be it just seems to be a trend for them now. But last, we're going to be talking about Georginio Wijnaldum continuing to be linked to Barcelona, as manager Ronald Koeman has been interested in the midfielder for some time. Obviously loves Wijnaldum and his play style, having managed him for in the Netherlands national team. And those rumors will only continue to escalate as Wijnaldum has yet to accept a new contract offer from Liverpool. So that future is just up in the air. No one really knows what's going to happen there. But that would be a huge get for Koeman and Barcelona, as Wijnaldum getting slotted into that midfield along with Busquets and obviously De Jong will just be huge for them. But that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 current Croatia players right now, right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, everyone. If you missed the last segment, we talked about all the transfer news and rumors going on in the world of soccer. If you guys missed that and you want to know what's going on, make sure you guys check that out. But now we're going to be talking about the top 10 current Croatia players in the world. And like they say, this is the golden age of Croatia football. And they're not lying. I mean, there are a lot of great names on this list. And there's some that I'm not even going to be mentioning. I'll just say it right now. Guys like Mandzukic that will not be on this list. I feel like, and Ante Rebic, a lot of great players that will not be on this list. And it's because it's stacked. I mean, Croatia have a really good team. I mean, that's why they're borderline top 10 country in the entire world of soccer. So let's just get right into it. Starting with number 10, Josip Bricalo, the 22-year-old left winger from Wolfsburg. You look at his club stats, he's got 133 matches played, 84 starts to go with 18 goals and 16 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 17 caps, 8 starts to go with 3 goals and 3 assists. So right off the bat, you look at those stats and you can tell Josip Bricalo is a very versatile player. He doesn't necessarily do one thing extremely well. He's a very, he does a lot of things well. I mean, he's got great technical ability, is a great dribbler, has very solid pace, and really creates a lot of actions for Wolfsburg. He isn't one of those wingers that'll look for his shot more than anything. He likes to get his teammates involved. Finds those forward runs very. He makes those forward passes very often and executes them very well. But just the one thing that Bricalo does that's extremely good is just his work rate. It's how much he works on both sides. He has no problem getting back and helping out on the defense. It's that his pace is so overwhelming for a lot of defenders and attackers that they can't really get away from him. And when he has the ball at his feet, it's very hard to get it away from him. His balance is very strong, or is very good. He's very strong for his frame. And just overall, it is very athletic. So Bricalo is certainly one of those Croatian youngsters that is going to be, kind of taking on, holding on to that torch for the older players that are a little higher up this list, and is going to be very important for their future. Next, at number 9, we have Dominic Levakovic, the 25-year-old goalkeeper from Dinamo Zagreb. He's got 229 matches played and 229 starts to go with a 687 save percentage and 87 clean sheets for club. And for Croatia, he's got 15 caps, 15 starts to go with a 678 save percentage and 3 clean sheets. And that 678 save percentage for Croatia doesn't really do it justice with the way he's been playing as of late. This season, and I believe it's about 6 matches, he's got a plus 820 save percentage and has just been killing it. I mean, I looked at some of his highlights, and his reaction time, his reflexes is ridiculous. There are times when players get, I can't even count the amount of times that an attacker would go and hit and go and strike for goal, and Levakovic would just save it ridiculous saves, just diving saves, and they would have this reaction of just unbelief, like, that they can't believe it. I can't count how many times I saw that on my hand on his highlight reel. It's just insane the amount of times he's been able to. He could do that, and a lot of that has to do with his positioning and his overall athleticism. He's very underrated in that sense, and I don't understand why he hasn't really been talked in terms of, like, maybe making it onto a top club. I know he plays in Dynamo Zagreb, not really, one of those, like, well-known clubs. Obviously not one that I really keep track of at all. But, I mean, he's got serious skill. And then you look at his abilities with the ball. He's got major sweeper-keeper potential. And when you talk about all of these things combined, he can be a big-time leader for this Croatian national team for years to come. And at just 25 years old, to be just to already be their number one goalkeeper, that's a very, very good sign. Number 8, we have Dejan Lovren, the 31-year-old center back from Zenit. Obviously a long-time Liverpool defender. Certainly has probably some of the most experience on this list. He's got 401 matches played, 378 starts, to go with 18 goals and 6 assists. And for country, he's got 51 caps, 48 starts, and 4 goals. So Dejan Lovren is one of those defenders that you love to have as depth on your club. For country, it's just, to have him in your back line, it's great because he's got a lot of experience, is a very smart defender, doesn't make too many mistakes on that end. Obviously, at this point in his career, doesn't have overwhelming athleticism, but he is a very, very smart player. His passing abilities are very strong as well. He has excellent long ball accuracy. There are so many times when he was in Liverpool where he would be used as pretty much like a deep lying playmaker, where he would find wingers and fullbacks like Alexander Arnold and Andrew Robertson, running on the wings, and he would find them with very, very accurate shots. The only reason he doesn't go any higher on this list because I just feel like, especially the guy ahead of him just has a little bit more, definitely has more potential, and is just a little bit better right now. But still, Dejan Lovren is certainly one of those guys that a lot of these players on Croatia and pretty much on any team he goes to look to as a leader and just someone that they'll look up to and can learn from incredibly, just a lot. Number 7, we have Duje Caleta Car, the 24-year-old center back from Marseille. He's got 171 matches played, 162 starts, to go with 7 goals and 5 assists. And for Croatia, he's just getting started, has 9 caps and 6 starts. Now, Caleta Car is incredibly physical. I mean, he is a strong human being, to say the least. And he makes it known to pretty much anybody. I've never seen so much pushing and just physicality on a highlight reel. I mean, this man makes his presence known in the air, on pretty much any defensive play. The only thing with him is that he's not the smartest defender. There are a lot of times where he gets caught out of position and attackers are able to get by him, so he commits silly fouls. And it almost made me put him underneath Dejan Lovren. And honestly, some people might think that I should have. And I don't know. I just feel like, he's also still very smart with the ball at his feet. He stays composed even when he has attackers around him trying to take the ball away from him and create errors. And that's kind of why I made him number 7 instead of 8. If he didn't have that ability, along with his, obviously very physical and there is pretty much no defender that I could think of that is as physical as him. And just with that composure with the ball makes me feel like he's good enough to be number 7 on this list. At number 6, we have Andrej Gramrich, the 29-year-old striker from Hoffenheim. He's got 324 matches played, 244 starts, to go with 160 goals and 46 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 48 matches played, 23 starts, to go with 13 goals and 3 assists. Now, Gramrich, I talk about him so much on this show, just how underrated he is, And honestly, I didn't even realize that he was Croatian, because I rarely would see him on the Croatia side, because he's used more as a, off the bench, obviously a spot starter, because a lot of the time Mandzukic is used as that starter. But I definitely believe that Kramaric, with Mandzukic, getting up there in age, I believe he's like 32 or 33 now. I believe that Kramaric at 29 and purely in his prime, in the middle of his prime, deserves to be that starting number 9 for Croatia. I mean, you cannot let this man get the ball in the box. He will score in pretty much any way necessary. He's got the flair with it as well. He's got great athleticism and is also a very solid passer. He's got 46 assists in his entire career, but in the Bundesliga, he's got just over 20 and is certainly not inept of getting his teammates involved. Can do that in a lot of different ways, and I just feel he's such a complete striker and is easily one of the best strikers, if not the second best striker, just behind Lewandowski in the Bundesliga. And that's saying a lot. I mean, maybe with Timo Werner there, he was probably third or fourth, because Weghorst from Wolfsburg was playing very well, but at the moment, no doubt in my mind, Kramaric is the second best striker in the Bundesliga, no doubt. At number 5, we have Ivan Perezich, the 31-year-old left winger from Inter Milan. For club, he's got 453 matches played and 342 starts. He's also got 120 goals and 70 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 87 caps, 74 starts, 26 goals, and 17 assists. He has the second most caps for Croatia on this list. Is honestly a very versatile and all-around player in the attack, and pretty much his entire game. He's a great passer, great goal scorer, has amazing technical ability. Even at his age of 31, he's still got very solid pace. I mean, when he was younger, in his late 20s, he was considered one of the better wingers in the world. And when he made that move to Bayern Munich on loan, it was a big move for him, and he was a big-time part of their success in winning the treble and obviously eventually the Champions League. And, I mean, he can do it all. I mean, his dribbling is great. His step-overs are legendary, and he can do it all on the attack. But what makes me love Perisic even more is the fact that he has the work rate to go along with that skill. He gets back on the defensive end, has incredible hustle. I remember seeing him absolutely maul Mbappe numerous times in the Champions League final. I mean, at the time I hated him, but obviously now, you just got to appreciate the ability and skill that Ivan Perisic shows on a daily basis, and he absolutely deserves to be in the top 5. Maybe not for much longer, but at the moment he is certainly still a top 5 player in Croatia, for Croatia at the moment. And I mean, on top of the fact that he has so much skill, he is one of the most experienced players on this list as well, has done so many things, obviously was with them for their run in the World Cup, has won a Champions League, has won league titles, has done so much in his career, and is certainly one of those players that people look up to. At number 4, we have Marcelo Brosovich, 28-year-old center defensive midfielder for Inter Milan. He's got 354 matches played, 303 starts to go with 40 goals and 44 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 54 caps, 41 starts to go with 6 goals and 7 assists. Now, when I think of Brozovic, I don't really think about a stat sheet stuffer, because he doesn't really, certainly he can get goals, he can provide assists, because he's a deep-lying playmaker in pretty much every way. However, it's what he does it's the things he does that doesn't show up on the stat board that really makes me feel like he is such an incredible player. He's super versatile, can play pretty much anywhere in the midfield. Certainly has played more in the center defensive midfielding role because of his incredible defensive IQ, but his ability to also get forward, his great technical ability with the ball, and just his composure. It, obviously works well in attack as, also. But it's just that, his tackling, obviously it's just his all-around game makes Brozovic an easy choice for number 4. Honestly, at some points I would have put him in the top 3, It's just that there's a player that I feel has just, has stepped it up to a different level, as of late, and certainly deserves to be in that top 3. You guys already know who 2 of them are, but for me, Marcelo Brosovich deserves to be the 4th best Croatia player right now. Now at number 3, we have Ivan Rakitic, 32-year-old center midfielder from Sevilla. For his club, he's got 614 matches played, 487 starts to go with 89 goals and 90 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 83 caps, 73 starts to go with 11 goals and 11 assists. As you can see there from those stats, he is an all-around player in the midfield, can help control the tempo of any midfield he joins. Obviously, he's doing that for Sevilla, taking a little bit of time for him to get his legs under him, but was, literally a key player for Barcelona for so many years. And now that he's just 32, doesn't have that, athleticism that he had there at, with the Spanish Giants, but he's still an extremely versatile and an all-around player for, just for any team he plays for. I mean, you look at those 89 goals and 90 assists, he can do it both ways. He gets teammates involved, all the time, and is an excellent goal scorer. Isn't one of those, guys that can score from pretty much anywhere, even though, he certainly does it. He certainly does it, but the thing is just he's just such a good player. I mean, just with what he does on a night-to-night basis, the way he calms his teammates down and just has that composure with the ball and just to be able to control the tempo. He does so many things. It's hard to put him. He can't go any lower, and for years he's not going to go any lower, in my opinion. But still, Ivan Rakitic is a great player and easily one of the best Croatian players right now. Number 2, we have Matteo Kovacich, the 26-year-old center midfielder for Chelsea. He's got 370 matches played, 239 starts to go with 17 goals and 35 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 61 caps, 38 starts to go with 3 goals and 6 assists. Now, Matteo Kovacich was seen as a prospect for Real Madrid for a long time. I remember when he first joined them, and he was one of those that people were very excited for. He kind of didn't, live up to those expectations there. So he made that move to Chelsea. Best thing he could have done, because now he is easily one of their most important players and does a lot of the things that Rakitic does, where he controls the tempo of any midfield he's on, can score incredible goals, but also loves to get his teammates involved. His vision and his technical ability is great for his size. I mean, he's a very big player. He's a strong player, but he's got agility and, the athleticism to get by multiple defenders and the vision to complete those runs with excellent passes. And he does it so many times, and his defense is also very, very, very good. And overall, Matteo Kovacich is just a very versatile player. One of those guys, just like Rakitic, that you can put him pretty much anywhere in the midfield, and you can even put him. I maybe wouldn't put him in the back line, but you could, because he's that versatile. Because he's strong he has an amazing work rate. He's great with the ball at his feet, and just does so many good things for his team. Is one of those players that pretty much any team would want on their squad. So Matteo Kovacich has made that leap to the second best player for Croatia, and he's going to be there for some time. Might even be the best player for Croatia for a long, long time. But not yet, because at number 1 we have Luka Modric. 514 matches played, 455 starts to go with 54 goals and 73 assists. And for Croatia, he's got 106 caps, 98 starts to go with 14 goals and 9 assists. Just an absolute magician with the ball. Luka Modric is one of the greatest players of my lifetime and has carved out a legendary career. I mean, that year when he helped Croatia make it to the World Cup, was easily their best player, has been their best player for years, has been their best player throughout this golden age of Croatia football, and won the Balloon d'Or that year, has been a key piece to Real Madrid's, just consistency. And it's crazy how at 35 years old, he's still, honestly, probably their best player. And I mean, you look at his stats. I mean, he obviously can get goals. I mean, he can get some crazy wonder goals. I mean, there's shots that I've seen Luka Modric take that it just keeps my jaw open and just on the floor, because it's just crazy what he does. And his technical ability is obviously top notch. He makes guys look silly at times. His vision and passing ability is, elite. He can make pretty much any pass you need him to. The only thing is that now that he's 35 years old, he's not able to be used as often as, Real Madrid would like. They'd obviously love him out there 90 minutes for every single game because he's that good. It's just not possible anymore. And this might be the last year that Luka Modric is the best Croatian player right now, but I still cannot put him any lower than number one, because he does pretty much anything you need him to in that midfield, and it's just as important as any player on this list. And honestly, that's why he comes in at number one. I can't think of anybody else that deserves to be there. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys just continue to keep watching, because I love giving you guys more content. But as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, and have a great night. And also, have a happy New Year, guys.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.